Unbelievable. Oh, that was sick. Welcome, Tony Royster Jr. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. It is such an honor to have you out on Drumeo, man.
Thank you so much. I'm indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy. Yes.
Absolutely. And guys, we have a full chat room right now. There's tons of people watching us. I know it doesn't look like it. There's nobody in front of us, but there are a lot of people watching.
What's up, everybody? Are y'all doing? I see you over there.
But if you guys, I'm sure you guys all know Tony Royster Jr. He's absolutely incredible. You just saw him here. He also, right now, you're touring with Jay-Z.
Yes,
And I've actually been such a huge fan. I've been following you ever since your 12-year-old solo that you did. You posted back, what was that, 1997, I think it was?
1997, the Mono Drummer Festival.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And if you guys want to follow Tony, please do. It's at the Dr. Royster.
Yes.
That's the Dr. Royster. You can follow him on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well.
Yes.
Cool. And so we're going to be talking today. Obviously, I just want to see you play. I just want to see you play. That was just so good. But we are going to talk a little bit about hand speed, I guess, and talk a little bit about some timing and all that kind of stuff. And if you guys have questions, get them in now. There's a lot of people out there, so there's going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah. So. And what I really like when we talk to you before the lesson is you have I'm like very analytical, very systematic, and you're like, no, there's no like system to develop speed. And so I think you have a really musical approach to speed, and you use it. You use it because you need it, or you develop it because you need it. And,
absolutely.
And it's not from a teacher's perspective; it's sometimes different. So I really like your musical approach, and you guys are in for a pretty awesome treat. So
thank you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Before we get into that, you do have a CD that you're working on right now.
Yes.
Coming out close to the end of the year, you think? Or?
Yeah, close to the end of the year. Right now, I'm just getting all the special pieces needed in order to make it happen. You know, the musicians, where I want to record it. I want the ambiance and the aura and everything to be just right when I record the CD. So that's extremely important. But for sure, you know, I have other things going on at this time as far as touring and you know, other shows. I'm here with you doing Drumeo, of course. So I would like to, you know, have some time to where I can just really focus on that. I mean, it won't take long, probably like a week for me to do the whole CD. And if I can get a solid week of just downtime and really be able to focus on that, I'll be able to have it done and then have some new music for you.
Nice. Absolutely. And you also have a stick bag that you're working on.
Yes, I have a stick bag that I'm working on. I collaborated with this company by the name of Lexdray, Lexdray. And it should be out within the next 2 months. This is somewhat of the prototype. Nice fleece inlining. You can put it's for sure a multi-purpose bag. You can put your laptop in here, you can put your iPad in here, several pockets, hold chargers, keys, whatever you like. Yeah, and this is pretty much all-around bag, everyday bag. You can carry it on your back, you can carry it somewhat of a semi-briefcase, you know, your preference, but a nice strap. And the material is nice, and it's pretty much simple, very direct, basic, and I think you might like it.
Yeah, what I like about that is nowadays when drummers go to a gig, they're not just bringing sticks.
Right.
Sometimes you got to bring like your iPad. You got to bring your computer.
Exactly.
And so no one's actually really looked into the stick bag and like, hey, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
You know, all the stick bags, you just have to literally either bring another one or bring your laptop bag.
Yeah, and that was my whole purpose behind designing this particular stick bag is, you know, I for that main reason, I wanted to bring my laptop with me. You know, chargers, all of that stuff. So you can do all that, and as well as, you know, the main things for drumming, your sticks, keys, mallets, you know, what have you, and it pretty much can handle everything.
Cool.
Very cool. And you guys can follow, because that's in development right now? Or
yes. I mean, it's pretty much done, but within the next 2 months, it should be ready.
Cool. And that's at Lexdray.
Yeah.
Lexdray. And hashtag sound carrier.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, before I keep going, there's tons of people watching, and so if you guys are watching this live, right below the video, there's something that says submit a question. If you want the possibility of your questions to be answered, it's already blown up, and so if you want your questions to be answered, you need to go there now. We won't be able to get to everyone today, unfortunately. But yeah, with that said, Dave, let's just get into the lesson.
I would love to talk to you a little bit about hand speed, and like Jared was saying when we first started, you have a different approach. A lot of the stuff that you were, you know, saying to us is a lot of the stuff you developed naturally. It just came to you naturally. But if you could just talk a little bit about your approach to how you built or how you would build hand speed. And what kind of stuff you practiced and all that kind of.
I want you to talk about what we were in the control room. You talked about Usain Bolt, and kind of maybe give the students that perspective, because I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Cool. So hand speed. So first of all, you know, growing up, my father told me that I was grasping drumming, you know, just at a very fast pace. And most of the things I was doing was very natural. He didn't teach me. You know, he said I was doing some things, and he would help me put my playing into perspective. So with hand speed and just being fast in general, he was like, you know, that's something that I just, you know, was growing up with. I was just automatically fast. And he just had to help me really monitor the speed, you know, and make sure everything that I do is not fast. But you know, one thing that I did, you know, growing up, after I realized that I was, you know, fast and I could possibly get faster, one thing that was taught to me by many drummers whose hand speed is fast, such as Dennis Chambers. I mean, I didn't have the actual chance to talk to Buddy Rich, of course, but he was one of the fastest people in the world as well. But stretching was one of the most important things that was taught to me. I didn't realize how important it was until I actually had a situation when I was playing on stage, and you know, I was playing hard, and you know, it was in the middle of the song, and one thing happened, and next thing you know, my hands locked up, and it can happen to anyone. So you know, stretching was extremely important to making sure I have flexibility around the set, and you know, I didn't tense up. You know, and that's the main thing behind building speed, because you can't go fast if you're tight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So stretching, also drinking, you know, a lot of water, and also I used to practice with sticks that are a little bit heavier than what I usually play with, of course. And I was in the marching band for a while. So you know, Ralph Hardman's or you know, whatever sticks that you can find that are heavier than what you usually play with. And you don't necessarily have to practice on surfaces that don't have any rebound, you know. But you know, just to be able to practice your basic rudiments. What I like to do is just singles, doubles, and paradiddles. You know, just do that, you know, for 15 minutes or so, just straight, and really building your consistency with, you know, your left and right hand. And speed comes from both of your hands being even, you know, or you know, even as possible. Because if you're doing a single stroke roll, your right hand might be faster than your left hand, which causes it to somewhat come out sloppy when you do a roll. So speed is basically gauged around how even your hands are, and you know, you stretching and being free around the set.
Cool. And you've mentioned stretching a few times, and so can you, and even before we started, when we were messing with the mics here, you were doing a few stretches. Do you mind just showing the students exactly what's going on?
So I'll do it with one stick. I mean, but you know, for the more advanced people who feel like that their flexibility is on another level, you can use two sticks. But what I like to do is just grab a stick, okay, and put, you know, each hand at each end of the stick, hold it, and I do one hand at a time. So basically, I'm just bringing the left hand around, up and under. Okay, you stretch. So now I have my right hand that I can use to stretch this wrist. Okay, and it's not just stretching the wrist; it's stretching your whole arm, everything, which is extremely important. And you do the same thing with the right hand. Okay, and if you can, you do it with both. Okay, and then you do that for maybe a couple of minutes. You don't have to do it, you know, for a long period of time. Then, you know, most people you see, or most drummers you see, you know, do this with the sticks. You know, and that's good. But when, you know, when I was in marching band, you know, if you want to get more weight, of course, you know, you just put the butt of the stick and the head of the stick pretty much together to where your fist is, and you do that. And that gives you a lot more weight, you know, as far as the stretching is concerned. You do that with both hands, of course. And I probably stretch for about maybe 5 to 7 minutes. I mean, I'm not actually counting, but it seems like that that much. And then that's when I go into just warming up.
Cool. And then for warming up, you said singles, doubles, and paradiddles. Do you mind just like going through that, what that routine would look like, even if it's around the kit, just to kind of?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, usually I just like to practice either on my snare drum or on a pad, but it's basic, you know. Oh, that's kind of loud.
That's really loud.
I'll turn it down just a little bit.
Okay.
So. So what I'm doing right now is just basically getting, you know, comfortable with whatever I'm practicing on. I want to, extend my wrist as much as possible, and this is also helping with the stretching. I might not play like this around the set, but for warm-up purposes, it's great. Okay, you don't have to go fast to begin with. Okay, it's just really about getting the consistency of your right and left hand and just staying consistent, basically. Then the same thing with doubles. Same with paradiddles. And then I put them together. Okay, and so you do that for maybe like 5 minutes, and then you speed it up at your own pace.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. And then you can apply that, to the drum set. So, of course, you probably won't be doing double strokes around the set or paradiddles around the set per se, but it's basically for you to get comfortable with the set. Okay, and that's what speed is about. It's about accuracy, and just knowing your set. So developing speed too, and making sure you can get around the set at a fast pace is also determined on how you set up your set as well. You have to set up to where you're comfortable, because if you have a time that's way over here because you saw someone else do it and it's not really comfortable to you, and you have a time way over here, it might not be set up, for you. So just make sure you get the set set up to where you just feel like you're one with the set. And that will help you with your playing, your speed, etc.
Yeah. Cool.
And I know, I noticed on your set, everything's really close. Like the cymbals aren't jacked up really high. Like everything's reachable.
Yeah. And then, for the Roland set, of course, I might set it up slightly different from my regular acoustic set because the drums are for sure bigger. And, I'm dealing with different sizes. But, for the most part, because I do a lot of fast, rolls, if you will, I like to kind of have my cymbals, the main ones at least, that I plan on doing that stuff with kind of close to me. I might have a cymbal over here, but that might be like an auxiliary cymbal that I won't really hit all the time. But for the most part, the drums that I really play and the cymbals that I really like to use during my play, and I like to kind of have them kind of close to me.
Cool. I was at your clinic last night, and somebody asked a question about hand technique and stick grip, and you kind of mentioned that you kind of adapt and you change depending on what you're playing. So my question to you would be, is there any wrong technique or anything that you shouldn't be doing in order for developing speed, or just with your grip?
Well, my grip, it changes, all the time, like you said. Excuse me, from yesterday's clinic, and it changes depending on what I'm doing. Also, what type of feel I'm trying to achieve, and also the sound that I'm trying to get and the tone from whatever drum or cymbal I'm hitting. But one thing for sure that you should not do is grip the stick like you're trying to choke someone. That's absolutely not good. Also, the placement of the stick in your hand. I see some drummers who hold the stick extremely high. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to playing. If that's how you choose to play, then that's what it is. But if you feel like there's a problem why you can't get faster or something doesn't feel right, then maybe you have to reevaluate the way you're holding and your approach to just playing and holding the stick. So one thing, I mean, if you don't know where to hold the stick, a great way to find a nice balance is wherever the stick bounces the most. With the fulcrum. So if you hold the stick too far up, you're not going to get any type of bounce, of course. And if you hold it too far back, you don't get anything. So now you're forced to work extremely hard besides just trying to get around the drums, is just holding the stick to make sure you don't drop it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you find a decent place in the stick to where you get, you know, some nice reaction from it, and then that's basically where you hold it. As far as me changing my grip, if I'm playing like this, of course, you can use your wrist for, just say, singles. But if I want to do a faster roll just with one hand, then I would probably switch my grip over and apply the fingers more so than just my wrist or anything. So now I'm adding my fingers to the equation. Same with the right. You know, so that's basically what that is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. We wanted to talk about timing a little bit. That you specifically mentioned this before we actually started, and you had a really, really good way that you were practicing it on here, and I know you wanted to say a few things about that.
Yeah. So of course, you know, a lot of drummers ask me, how do I develop my time? And you know, a specific drummer in particular last night asked me. Well, he actually told me that his bass player would tell him he wanted him to play ahead of the beat more, and he felt like he had a hard time kind of understanding that or comprehending what he was trying to say. Not to say he wasn't doing that, but he just, you know, the communication wasn't there.
Yeah.
But, you know, playing with the TD-30, of course, it has a metronome in here, and there's a lady in here that counts, right? And so she never goes off time.
Yeah.
You can always count on that. But it's just a great way to practice and develop your timing. Another way, too, that I like to practice that is, you know, you get in a practice room, you get one of your favorite records that you like, you turn it on, have a friend, or whatever, you can do it yourself as well, but have a friend in the room, you play for, you know, like the first minute, really develop your inner metronome, like really sink into the time, and then have them turn the music down. He or she turn the music down, and you know, wait for like 5 seconds, because 5 seconds is an eternity, for sure, in music when you're not hearing anything.
Yeah.
And then turn it back up and see where you're at. And you can definitely end up in a different place.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to you know, work on building your time. But I'll just demonstrate.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
So I'll just put it in 4/4 time for now, which of course is the basic time signature of life.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
So basically,
3, 4, 1.
So basically, just playing with 4/4 time. Okay, you really get your timing in order. I ask everyone, how do you know if you're directly on time? It's basically when you can't hear the metronome anymore. Of course, that's metronome rules 101.
Yeah.
So if you can't hear the metronome anymore, that means you're directly on time. And a lot of artists, some artists really don't like that. You know, some drummers think that's great, that you can play like a solid metronome. But you know, music is about feel. Point blank.
Yeah.
So some music requires you to play ahead of the beat. Some music requires you to be looser when you play. But as a foundation for you to be able to play with the click and have the inner metronome inside you to where you can drag a little bit but still have that steady time in your head, that's what's extremely important. So I'm going to play 4/4, play with the click, and then play off the click as well, and then I'll change into a different time signature as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 3,
so playing with 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
So I'll change it to 13, 16. We'll see what happens there.
See what happens. 13, 16.
Captain Bob said that sounded like his wife. I don't know if that's that good or bad. But
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Unreal. That was so good.
But, you know, playing with the metronome allows you to just really push yourself, you know. And it's okay to, like, make mistakes, you know. But that's really the only way you can see what your body and what your mind is capable of doing. So, you know, 4/4 and then going to 13/16 is just a great way for yourself to get better and seeing what you can achieve in your drumming.
Now, were you thinking about anything there, especially on 13/16, or were you just feeling it? Like, what was going through your head when you were playing that?
Yeah, feeling it, more so not counting, because I feel like if I count the divisions within the click, like, I can't, like, really open up my mind to play and do things that are somewhat abnormal with playing in that time signature. But for the most part, like I said, I've played so long to where I could develop and just feel where the one should be. And once I embed that into my system, then I can pretty much play freely. Excuse me. So, you know, that's just basically based off of feeling. And, you know, with her counting, it's always a great way to really hear, because now if you turn that off, and if you ever play in that time signature with a band or, you know, or whatever, you can kind of, you know, go back to that. But, you know, just having something that's very consistent within the music, whether it be some type of riff, and you know that this is the phrasing of the riff, and this is where it starts all over again. So not necessarily just counting in between, but if you know this is where this phrase is going to come back around, then that's, you know, that's another way you can go off of playing in that particular time signature.
Cool. Cool.
So based off of feel, more so for me.
Cool. Okay, well, we'd like to do some questions, but before that, maybe we can play a track, if possible.
Sure.
Cool, and I'll, there's like hundreds of questions, so I'll start
filtering them.
A few.
What do we have here?
Unreal.
Thank
That
you.
was so good.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy to be right here when what's happening.
I know.
Very cool.
I'm blown away right now.
Okay.
Do you have questions?
Yes. There's lots of really, really good questions. And so,
All right.
first one's from Joey Wojcik, and he says, "Hey, Mr. Royster, do you still, even to this day, change the setup of your drums? Because he says he can't find a perfect setup, and he keeps changing it like once a month."
Oh, he changes the set once a month.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I still change my setup from time to time, depending on who I'm playing with. Of course, if I'm playing with an artist that doesn't require me to have a clinic setup, 15 times, 3 kick drums, whatever. Obviously, I have a larger drum set when I do, DVDs, things of that nature. But I still change my setup from time to time. When I play with Jay-Z, I keep it very hip-hop, very basic. 2 rack toms, floor tom, a gong drum, my sampling pad. Then I have, somewhat of a plethora of cymbals, because his music, requires like either big crashes, some nice auxiliary cymbals, But yes, I do change my setup. Now, him changing his setup from once a month is a little different.
Yeah.
So I think really he's just trying to go through the phase of just really trying to find out what's really comfortable to him. But one thing I do suggest is when you do find a setup that you really like, that you enjoy, kind of stick with that. Because then that's when you can really become creative with your playing. Because now, this is where everything is. If you change your setup in 2 weeks or like a month, then, you try to do something that you did on the other setup that you had, it doesn't come across the same way.
Yeah.
So really try to find a setup that you're really extremely comfortable with, kind of master that. And then, if you feel like you want to change it up, after, I say, like a year or so, maybe 6 months, depending on how much you practice, too. Because if you practice a lot, then you're always on the set, of course. But yes, I do change my setup from time to time, just depending on who I'm playing with.
Cool. Yeah.
This one's from Daniel J. Jones. He says, when creating a solo, do you have a method or approach? Your solos are always so entertaining, and thank you for sharing your passion and knowledge.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much, first of all. And yes, when it comes down to soloing, ever since I was younger, my father, Tony Royster Sr., he taught me how to, like I said, put my playing in perspective. And I always had a lot of things to play, but, where to play them is extremely important. Your approach, and you want to take people on a ride. You just don't want to start off, of course, in 5th gear. That's also something that seasoned musicians, drummers tell you. You don't really want to start off in 5th gear because you have no place to go. So, I try to make my solos as musical as possible, try to really want to take you on a ride to where you don't know exactly where I'm going, and keeping you on the edge of your seat. But as far as, just creating a solo, it's good to kind of have somewhat of a foundation. There's different ways to go about doing it. Like, for example, for people who really have no idea how to play a solo, it's really easy to kind of start learning. One thing you can do is, and I can demonstrate really fast for the question, excuse me. So one thing you can do, you find your groove. Or not even a groove, you can just find you can play something that's, that kind of sticks out to everyone. And I call this home base. Okay, so just say I'm using these cowbells. Right, so that's my home base. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna solo off of my home base, okay, and be able to come back around. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trading forwards with myself, or, however you wanna go about, playing. But here's an example. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, you could take that somewhere else. But, having you know, a home base, someplace that you can come back to when you get lost, even in your solo. You know, it's just a great way to build one. And then you can just become more creative. You can see that you can pretty much tell a story, you know, with that. As well as if you add other pieces, you know, besides just a cowbell, other drums. But yeah, I just like to kind of, you know, take people on a ride and just, you know, want to tell them a story. So that's my whole outlook when it comes to soloing.
Yeah. Cool approach.
This is a good question because I had the same question as well. But this one's from Leo Mori. He says, "Hey Tony, thanks for being here. You're a great inspiration for him. Can you show him how you choke the cymbals with your stick? That technique works great with real cymbals too, or only in an electronic kit?" Now you were doing it before when you like hit the cymbal and stopped it right away.
Yeah. So I mean, you can actually choke the stick, choke the cymbal.
Yeah.
Of course, by just holding the end of the cymbal. The electronics, it has a space on here to where the pressure that you apply causes the cymbal to choke, of course. So at the end of the cymbal on the V drums, and then you can also do it with your stick. So it adds like it's a little trick. So basically all you need is pressure on the end of the cymbal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's basically how you do it with the V drums.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another good question here. I'm trying to... Yeah, here it is. He says, "What's your favorite rudiment or chop?" And this guy's name is Jared.
What's my favorite rudiment or chop?
Maybe just like, is there a certain pattern like you always find yourself doing between your hands and your feet? Like
That's a good question. Not really. I mean, basically, singles are for sure my favorite rudiment because I mean, you can just do all kinds of things with them and just different placements with the singles, whether it be on the drums or the hi-hat or whatever. But it's no really specific chop because it always changes for me, or I try to come up with different combinations.
Yeah.
So that question is kind of difficult really to answer.
So it just comes naturally, like the hand and feet stuff. It just, you don't practice a certain pattern.
Nah, because I mean, you can practice a rudiment.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, you get the basic rudiment, but then now, like, how do you change that rudiment into making it your own? What can you add that you already know to that particular rudiment to make a specific combination? There are great drummers out there that can do that, like of course, like Chris Coleman, and if you watch any of these drummers, Ronald Bruner, Thomas Pridgeon, of course the greats like Vinnie Colaiuta and Dave, like all these drummers have I'm sure specific rudiments that they like, but it's all about just like your own particular combinations that you come up with, and that just comes from feeling as well at the time, and also like what type of style of music that you're playing, and that comes in phrasing. So it's a lot of things to go behind that, but I specifically don't have a particular like lick or combination that I play all the time, but singles for sure are my favorite rudiment.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know if you mind playing another track, and I'm going to continue looking through the questions.
Or a solo. I mean, I know last night at the clinic you were doing some pretty cool things with just the sounds of the Roland kit here too.
Yeah, sure.
And actually after that, I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how you use the Rolands in your own practice and all that, because it's definitely a different instrument to the acoustic, but kind of the same all at the same time. So
okay, cool. I'll use this set.
so cool. That was all sounds just from the module.
Yeah, from the module. Yeah, so it's just a great way to, you know, just work on your musicality. Just have fun, you know, and that's basically what that is, you know. And that's why I enjoy the V-drums so much. You can also, of course, program your own sounds in there. You know, just change different patterns or chord progressions, you know, within the set. But it's just, like I said, it's a great way to practice and to have fun.
Now, when you play live, do you incorporate some of the drums with your acoustics? Do you like make a hybrid, or?
Well, I'm currently working on a hybrid set. At this point in time, I don't have a complete Roland V-drum set with my acoustic set. Okay. I'm using a couple of pads and then also the sampler here. But yeah, I mean, you know, just to have this somewhat set up with your acoustic is like, it makes the possibilities endless. Yeah. You know, so that's what I'm currently working on right now. So I could, you know, maybe have a specific sound, you know, that I can play for the verse of a song or like a bridge, you know, because there's some great sounds in here. And then also, not to mention, it's great for producing as well, because you could MIDI, you know, from whatever program you're using, such as Logic, MIDI the sounds into here, and you can play whatever your particular sounds are. And you can record your own, you know, grooves and beats with your sounds. It doesn't even have to be from the stock sounds out of the TD-30. So, you know, it's a great practice tool, and as well as just being able to play live and also in the studio too.
Cool.
Very cool.
Got some more questions?
Yeah, lots more.
Okay, let's answer a few more.
Nandu Ganesh asked if we could spell out the name of the sellers, the bag. And so that is lexdray.com, LEXDRAY.com.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you can go check out the bag there.
Cool.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. Sorry, I have to find my way through here.
This is definitely a record for how many people we have online. We're maxed out the chat, and
wow,
it's pretty crazy. So
I appreciate all of you coming to talk, man. It really means a lot. I appreciate all the love and support. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great. We got to have you out again. Because
yeah, I want to bring like once I, you know, come back, maybe have the hybrid set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready then, and then maybe have some musicians, maybe my band come through.
Yeah, you're more than welcome anytime.
I think that might be a great time.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Here we go. Oh no, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, well I'll say this one anyway. Missionary Beats. How much time do you spend practicing, and with your busy schedule, do you find it hard to maintain scheduled practicing, or do you prefer them to be random? Just.
Well, I do have a busy schedule, and you know, sometimes depending on what I'm doing as far as touring is concerned, that is my practice. You know, if I'm playing hip hop, you know, and it was crazy because I go from playing hip hop to playing like soulful pop / R&B. Like I'll play with Jay-Z and then go to the beautiful Joss Stone, who's a very good friend of mine, and I love her music. I just recorded her whole last album, Soul Sessions 2, so y'all should go and get that as well. It's wonderful music. But that's completely two different genres of music, you know, to a certain degree, you know. But as far as practicing is concerned, if I'm playing that music, that's what I want to play. I really want to take that music to a completely different level, especially when I'm playing it. But, you know, as far as my practice routine is concerned, I really don't have that opportunity to practice as much as I would like to, because I'm on the road so much.
Yeah.
But I do have the opportunity to practice. Like, of course, you can practice every day on a pad, or you know, what have you. You can make your own little drum set wherever you're at.
Yeah.
But as far as on like a real acoustic drum set, I really don't have time to do so. But now that I'm home for a little while, and after this Canada, this is the last place actually I'm going to be. I had a great Canada clinic tour that Roland put me on, which was fantastic. I thank everyone for being involved, and Darren, and it was good times. But after this, you know, I'm going to be home for a little while. So, and I just got me a actual room that I can put all my drums and everything in now. That
nice.
I was looking at trying to find a decent area close to my house, and I found one. So now I'm about to put all my equipment in there, and I'll be able to, you know, for a little while and really get out some other ideas, and then also bring some of my friends along who I feel like can push me as a drummer. You know, I'm good, okay, and not to say that there's no other drummers out there that's not good as well, or who can actually play the drums. And I really appreciate, you know, drummers like that, because that's just a motivational tool to use to get better.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's another way I like to practice too, bringing some good friends along who want to learn from each other as opposed to making it a battle or competition. That's the only way you can get better.
Yeah.
So a drummer by the name of Dave Elich is a good friend of mine. He used to play with Mars Volta and Daughters, and he's a fantastic drummer. We share ideas, and like I mentioned earlier, Chris Coleman, who everybody should go and check out. Ronald's also a beast on the drums. But you know, you get certain people that you really enjoy to play with, and you just go and practice. But to answer that question, hopefully my time opens up a little bit more before I end up going on tour again, which I'm trying to see what dates those are.
Yeah.
But you know, I won't even think about that. I just want to, you know, get my practicing in while I can.
Okay, maybe one more question, then we can play a track or something.
Sure, yeah.
Run out of time.
Getting close to the end, I guess.
Yeah, this is a great one, and I know a lot of people who at least take our lessons. Some of the surveys and polling we've done, they want to play drums for a living. They want to do like what you do, and so that's why I love these kind of questions. But he says, what are the keys from a good drummer to a professional drummer who makes a living? Like, what are the differences? I guess he's trying to ask.
Okay, well, first of all, knowing exactly what you're trying to achieve as a musician, as a drummer. You can't really do what someone else, you know, does if that's not what your calling is. For example, what I mean by that is, if you're a solid funk or rock drummer, okay, there's no reason why you should try to engage into a jazz gig. Not saying that you don't want to open up yourself to play jazz. Of course, it's great to add that to your repertoire of playing. But you know, if you're a solid rock drummer, then go hard with rock. Okay. Another thing is really having a very humble, attitude, you know, towards just the music, you know, and people as well. People that really don't want to work with someone who is a donkey.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's and I've seen people come and go really fast.
Yeah.
From having a messed up attitude. So being a likable person really shows the amateur side and professional side of a drummer. And then also what's most important is your work ethic. You know, your work ethic has to be on another level, because if you're not doing it, for sure someone else is doing it. You know, if you're trying to really become successful as a professional drummer, which it's very difficult because there's a lot of drummers out there. As you can see, everyone plays the drums, and everybody would like to have a steady gig. And you know, you can definitely play the drums for fun, or you can make it your living. You know, and then also just knowing that you don't want to play drums just to make money. Like, and mind you, like, everybody wants to make money.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just, you don't want to lie and say, nah, I'm just doing it just because I love the drums. No, you're doing it because you like to play, it's a passion, but at the same time, you can get paid for something that you love doing, which is something that you have to understand and grasp first, and then you can, you know, proceed, just as long as you understand that concept. So, just as long as you know you're doing it because you love it, and you can do it because you can possibly make money from it, like, put that in order. Don't do it because I just want the money, because now you're going to become stressed out because you can't find a gig, you don't know where to go, and now you're desperate. You know, and then that just turns your drumming upside down to something that you had no idea it would end up at. So, you know, so those are the main things: staying humble, having good work ethic, being a likable person. Of course, that goes with being humble, and doing it because you love playing. And then if you get paid from it, then that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Should we cap it at that for questions? Because we got so many more coming in, but
there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, there's like over 100.
What?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to all you guys who asked questions. We got to have you out again. And
yeah, I would love to come back out, you know. And are there only hour sessions, or you do longer sessions?
We can do longer. If you're up for it, we can take more. but I don't want to spend.
No. I'm just saying, like, for future reference,
Yeah.
like, when I come back, you know, if I have, like I said, bring my band, of course, you know, that's different segments that we can talk about and have more questions. Sorry, guys, that we can't get all the questions in, but hopefully I'll be back soon.
Yeah. So, guys, if you guys want, and I suggest you do, go and follow Tony Royster Jr. right now on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. It's at the Dr. Royster.
Yes.
At the DR Royster. Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate
for coming out here.
Thank
so
you.
much, man.
And the Blue Frog as well.
Yeah.
Hey, it's an amazing facility.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And Roland, Darren, and Jay from Roland.
Absolutely. My manager, Chris Hooks.
Yeah.
He looks out for the kids. So that's another good thing, too, to have great representation, too, if you want to be a successful musician, artist, whatever you are. Having good representation is someone that you can trust as well. I don't really like him, but...
Right.
No.
You got the feeling already. But thanks, everybody, for coming out, too.
And maybe, if Tony doesn't mind, you just play us out a little bit.
He's going to for sure
as long
play
as
us
you
out.
want.
Yeah.
Wow, that's different. Okay, let's see.
Play us out.
Don't worry about stopping. Just have fun, play as long as we're going to leave, and we're just going to go watch you.
You're going to leave?
Yeah. And
why would you leave me out here?
watch you play. But thanks, everybody, for coming out. And if you liked this kind of setting, like the live lesson, we do this every day on Drumeo Wedge, so definitely check that out. And yeah, do you want to play us out?
Yeah, I'll play some things for you. How about that?
Cool.
Let's see.
The more the better.
Yeah.
See you guys all later.